We're getting close to Nebraska spring ball, which means practice ramps up and fans start to gain expectations for the new season. So in this video, I have 5 storylines to watch out for from now to April in Huskers practice. And we'll go over each one in detail and talk about how it's going to impact Nebraska all season long. So real quick, if you like the content, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps me out, along with subscribing to the channel. It's completely free, and we are so close to 2,000 subscribers. So if you don't want to miss out on Nebraska content all offseason long, please hit that subscribe button. It'd be awesome. But without further ado, let's get into the video talking about spring practice. And man, oh man, it is so close. That feels great to say. Of course, really, it'll get going in March. We saw that winter conditioning starting to ramp up, along with the spring game being in late April. So I have 5 things to watch out for from now until the spring game. And let's just start it off with number 1, that being the running back battle. And you're going to hear a lot about this all offseason long, specifically in the spring and the summer. But it's probably the biggest running back battle we've seen in the last decade for the Cornhuskers. You have about 4 guys who can win this job. Gabe Irving, who I'm sure we're all familiar with, going into his 4th year of college, but really he's had an injury-riddled career so far at Nebraska. You have Ramir Johnson, the veteran running back in that room, more of a pass pro, skinny back. Then you have Emmett Johnson going into his 3rd year, a younger running back, but got a lot more playing time as of last year. And then last but not least, Dante Dowdle, the Oregon running back transfer, more of a bruiser, and I expect him to actually win the job. I know a lot of others expect him to do so as well. So again, those are the 4 guys who can actually win the job. And that's also, you're going to want to keep your eyes on who will the winner of that running back battle actually be a bell cow running back. That's a word that Scott Frost used a lot when he was here, that you've heard Matt Rule use as well. Will there be a running back who rushes 20, 25 times a game? Or will it be more of a running back by committee situation where we trade off carries? I expect more of the latter. I expect it to be a running back committee situation where Dante Dowdle gets a lot of carries, but you see Gabe Irving get involved as well. And then you sprinkle in a little bit of Ramir Johnson in the pass pro department. So again, you're going to want to keep your eyes on that. And really, it's just going to come down to commitment, conditioning, really getting attuned to this Glenn Thomas and Marcus Satterfield offense. So that's number 1. That's going to be, again, a big storyline all spring. But number 2, I already talked about it a tiny bit, is how Glenn Thomas, the new co-offensive coordinator, changes up this offense. And Matt Rule's already talked about it since Thomas got hired. He said, technically, Glenn Thomas will not be our real offensive coordinator. It'll still be Marcus Satterfield's job. We basically just added on that title for more money. And I already basically talked about that in my video about Glenn Thomas. That's to be expected. But with that being said, there are still going to be changes to this offense because of Glenn Thomas. And things that I'm expecting are going to be things along the lines of us being more pass heavy. Last year, we really relied a lot on the quarterback run game to win football games. That is not going to happen this year, especially if Dylan Raiola is our quarterback 1. He can run the football, but he's not an option quarterback. I don't want to run him more than 5 times a game, especially on design plays. So we're going to have to throw the ball more. It's going to have to be more of an air raid, pro-style offense. So that's something to watch out for. Number 2 is, how does Glenn Thomas get his playmakers the football? That was a common theme when I watched some film of him as the offensive coordinator of Arizona State, Baylor, Temple, right? He got his playmakers the football no matter what, and that's something that I expect here at Nebraska, right? Whether that's Jamal Banks, whether that's Isaiah Nayer, Malachi Coleman, whether that's Dante Dowdle at the running back spot, whether that's Thomas Fedoni at tight end, right? He loves to get his best players the football. How does he do it with Nebraska? So watch out for that. He's absolutely going to have a couple parts to play in wrinkling up this offense and making it different. Number 3 is probably the most important storyline to watch out for in spring ball, and that's the discipline of this team. That's Matt Rule's calling card. When he got hired by Nebraska and he was at his opening press conference, he said he's here to turn boys into young men, and he's going to really change their lives and make them good football players at the same time. So really, we're going to have to watch the discipline. Is everybody going to practice on time? Are they eating right? Are they doing conditioning at a high level? And that's really what this is all about. That's what spring practice is about. That's what winter conditioning is about. And when you add on the third part of that, Nebraska has to weed out the weak. If you're not familiar with our scholarship situation, we are actually 15 scholarships over right now in the spring. You're going to expect to see about 10 or 15 guys transfer from now to July. So again, this process is going to be weeding out guys who are not committed, guys who are not going to play, guys who are not attuned to the culture. That's what spring practice is all about. So that's something to keep your eye on. And again, I expect to see Corey Collier, for example, is no longer with the team. It was announced 2 days ago. That's a guy who I don't believe really was too intertwined with Matt Rule's culture from the get-go, and a guy who just wasn't going to play. So expect to see more guys like him just weeded out through this process. I kind of referred to NFL preseason very similar to this. In the preseason, you start off with 80-something guys, and you weed it down to about 50. That's very similar to what's going on right now. You're just weeding out some guys who aren't going to play, aren't going to contribute, and aren't a part of this culture. So that's number 3. Now let's get into another positional battle you're going to want to keep your eyes on. Number 4, the linebacker room. And of course, the big storyline there is you lose Luke Reimer, you lose Nick Henrich. And I recently polled Husker fans. I said, what is the biggest position that you're most worried about going into 2024? And linebackers won by a large margin. And I agree with them. Again, you lose your most productive linebackers. You have a lot of question marks there. Number 1, is Stephon Thompson, the transfer from Syracuse, going to jump right in and instantly earn that linebacker 1 job? And not only that, is he going to be a leader in that room, a room that's very young? Will John Bullock start again? That's a player who I wasn't super impressed with last year. Or will another guy like Mekhi Gabayer finally get an opportunity, who I believe is one of the most talented linebackers on this roster? He's one of my guys. And I'm going to sing his praises all offseason long. If Mekhi Gabayer gets an opportunity, he will not give it back. That's how good of a player he is. And he made a couple of good plays this year for the Cornhuskers. So that's another room to watch, another positional battle. And it's so crucial because Tony White's defense is dependent on the linebacker room in that 3-3-5. You go back to last season. When we played our best games defensively, Luke Reimer was playing his best games. Nick Henrich was playing his best games. However, when those two struggled, our defense let down as a whole. So the linebacker room is so important. They have such a big just status in this 3-3-5. So we're going to need a couple of playmakers there at the position in 2024 in order to have a top 20 unit as a whole. So that's 4 things to watch out for. Let's get into the 5th, and I'm sure you've been waiting for it. Dylan Raiola. That's the story of the offseason, folks. That'll be the story all offseason long. Dylan Raiola, how does he fit into this team? Does he add to this culture? Will he be quarterback 1 in the fall? And right off the get-go, he has to earn it. That's what Matt Rule's talked about since he's got here. Nothing is going to be given to you. Everything is going to be earned. He's going to have to walk in here, learn the playbook early on, get good reps in practice. He's going to have to beat Heinrich Harburg, who's going to be his competitor in that quarterback battle. And he's going to have to completely earn it, right? It's going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be hard. A lot of running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, they get on campus and they struggle to learn the playbook right away. We've seen that throughout the years. It's not going to be easy, but we expect Dylan Raiola, who's a smart kid, he's a kid who's committed to this team. I expect him to do so, and I expect him to be our quarterback 1. But not only that, does he play at a high level? And number 2, is he a leader on this team? When Adrian Martinez, who was our last true freshman starter at quarterback, when he started in the fall of 2018, he was a captain from the get-go. That was not only a symbol of his status, of his playmaking ability, but just his leadership and chemistry with the rest of the team. That is something that I hope Dylan Raiola also gets. Again, he has to earn it. He has to earn captain, and I hope he, in fact, receives it. So I know Matt Rule does captains a little bit differently. Again, it's not really the traditional captain like we've seen in the past, but still it's a status symbol. And really, we do captains in a different way. It's basically the single digits. So if he wins one of those, that'll really show you that he is a leader and that he's going to be something not only for this year, but the next 3 to 4 years. So that's my 5 storylines. Let me know down below if you have another one that you're going to be looking out for. Again, I'm super excited that spring ball is getting underway. We're going to have constant updates on this channel. So please hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on anything like that. Again, we're so close to 2,000. Thank you for all the support I've gotten over the last couple months. Again, we're only getting started on this channel. I have so much more planned. But folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rule, and see you in the next one.